I can't remember a time when I wasn't drowning. I wasn't drowning in darkness. It slithered inside of my head. Is there a reason I'm in the deep end again? I'ma get down to the bottom of it, it's tragic. And all I wanna know is what the hell happened. Am I the only one who feels like? Am I the only one who feels like all the intensity's becoming a habit? Or maybe I'm just overreacting. Am I the only one who feels like? Am I the only one who feels like I'm overstimulated, all I hear is white noise. Stuck in the simulation, can't turn on my own voice. It's getting too loud, going ghost like I'm living in the underground. I'm overstimulated, all I hear is white noise. Stuck in the simulation, can't turn on my own voice. It's getting too loud, in a truck with the windows all blacked out. Everybody is watching every move I make. I can't take it. The paranoia is toxic. My nightmares are haunted. I'm getting lost in my head. I'ma get down to the bottom of it, it's tragic. And all I wanna know is what the hell happened. Am I the only one who feels like? Am I the only one who feels like all the intensity's becoming a habit? Or maybe I'm just overreacting. Am I the only one who feels like? Am I the only one who feels like I'm overstimulated, all I hear is white noise. Stuck in the simulation, can't turn on my own voice. It's getting too loud, going ghost like I'm living in the underground. I'm overstimulated, all I hear is white noise. Stuck in the simulation, can't turn on my own voice. It's getting too loud, in a truck with the windows all blacked out. It's getting too loud, in a truck with the windows all blacked out. You can use my love, I wanna use my body. You can give it up, I know that you want me. You can use my love, I know that you're starving.
Well, as always, the show has to start when like the coolest songs start playing.
I'm sorry, but both of them have been like fire, like molten lava fire.
And again, I'm a massive fan of these playlists. Just for everybody, if you guys are interested in the music that we listen to on the show, the music that's playing on the show, the playlist is by Monster Cat Music. And it is called New Music Weekly by Monster Cat. So that is on Spotify. It is on Apple Music, wherever you get your music. If you guys are interested in those playlists, they update it like every couple of days, which is kind of cool because it's all the latest music from Monster Cat. And again, we have a license for Monster Cat, so we can play any of their music. So
that's awesome. I have I have to say I've been pleasantly surprised by the music over, I don't know, the last year and a half I've been on the show.
And it's always this playlist. That's what I like about this is because they update it every couple of days.
Yeah.
It's always new music, so it's always really cool. Anyway, speaking of new music, this song isn't that new because it's like a 4-year-old song, but ladies and
New to
gentlemen,
me.
no, the one I'm about to play right now.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready for the show.
Oh, this one? No, this one's not new.
This is not it.
This one's not new.
Distance nerding.
Well, hey there, all of you kitties, all you cool cats and kittens.
All of you people in Distance Nording Nation.
It's Nording.
That's never going to die.
Everybody that's in Norway, because we actually do have a fan base in Norway, which is kind of funny. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Friday show. And we're about to have some fun because, guys, we've got 2 guests on tonight, one in each hour of the show. One is a returning guest, and I love this dude to death, so I can't wait to talk about the project and the updates on this project. The second is a newer guest, and after doing the research, I'm super excited to talk to him as well.
You don't have to call me a guest. I mean, I've been on the show a lot. That's...
Jen, I'm just excited to be in your presence.
Oh, you don't have to say that every time.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we jump into the rest of the show and start everything that's going on here, number one, Say Wong, I know the World Series has begun and I don't like either team. So
So is it really a World Series? Because it's all American teams, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I know, right? Technically, because
they play a little thing called baseball in Japan.
Yeah, but I'm saying technically, if you really want to get technical, we do have one international team.
Oh, no, Canada doesn't count.
It doesn't count. But
that's like the freaking NBA playoffs if they said they were the world basketball playoffs, but they don't.
The Toronto Raptors.
See, even Proxy agrees. Listen to her.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we jump into all the things, of course, the show is brought to you by the good people over at Dubby. Oh, it's just my way of
purple one.
The purple, the one in the top right there.
Yeah. Oh, but it looks like there's a watermelon on it. Never mind.
There is. That's Galaxy Grenade.
Oh, and then the one underneath that, is that peach?
No, so that's Calio cream. So that's the mango orange cream.
Oh yeah, so that's like the dreamsicle one. Okay, all right. It's just so colorful.
I know. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are brought to you by Dubby. Dubby is a brand of energy drinks created to help focus concentration reaction time with no jitters or crash. Dubby contains no maltodextrin, no sugars, no fillers, no artificial colors or dyes. Now, you may be wondering to yourself, why Dubby? Why should I get Dubby and not all the other things that are out there? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because Dubby contains Neurofactor. Neurofactor is a neurotropic derived from the coffee fruit. Neurofactor helps give your brain focus and clarity, while the 150 milligrams of caffeine and 3 essential B vitamins help you stay alert and energized. Find out more about Dubby at www.dubby.gg. Use the code NERDING10 and get 10% off your order. Deliciousness. Definitely not drinking any right now.
I was going to say, I love that focus was what you flubbed. It's like focus, Phil. Focus.
I need focus. No, I've got enough caffeine in my system. I don't need more. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is our sponsor. Now, of course, before we jump on to and bring on our guest, I made a promise that whenever anybody sends us an email, I will read it on the show.
Wait a minute, we got an email?
We got an email.
I'm so excited.
We got an email. So this email is a birthday shout out
It's not.
Okay.
My birthday's like away. So serious. So I mean, it's not us.
So you'll see who it is here in a second.
Oh, okay.
Hey guys, I want to interrupt the interview to say happy birthday to my love, Jeff.
Aww.
He has been my rock for the last 10 years, and I want to wish him a very happy birthday. Bruce and I both love you to death. Love Sandra and Bruce. That is a shout out to from his family. Jeff DeLong is for those of you on the out in the show sphere that may not know who Jeff is. He and his lovely wife Sandra and their son Bruce help us out a lot at cons now, and especially in the last year they've been going to every con and helping us with everything. They are massively invaluable as far as the help that they give us and they give everybody. So they are a part of our con team, and I love them to death. And yes, happy birthday, Jeff. And I will see you tomorrow, man.
Happy level up day, Jeff. Because I don't do birthdays anymore. But happy level up day. And Sandra, Betty, yes, they do cosplay. Follow them on Instagram. Follow her specifically and DeLong family cosplay. Follow both of them because they have some amazing cosplays. I was just looking at the stuff from last weekend and it looks amazing.
Yeah.
So
that Sandworm won another costume contest at Sinister Creature Con. So
that's what I was looking at. I was looking at the pictures of that and I was like, oh, I was blown away. It's just amazing. They do such amazing things. So
do a lot of great work. And again, they're just great in general. And James is here to nerd together on a Friday.
Mm-hmm. So yes, only him. He singly will nerd together.
Exactly. So let's jump into this, ladies and gentlemen. The first guest for this week is a returning champion. He is a returning champion. He came on a couple months ago, I want to say back in April, to promote a book that he has out called So-Called Living. It is amazing. Both me and Graveyard are massive fans of this book, and I'm excited to talk about the addition to what he's done with this series, because we do have a Kickstarter up and going, which I will post the link here in a moment. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show, Mark Maia.
Thank you for having me on, guys.
Oh my gosh, I love the hat.
Thank you.
I like the whole vibe.
Yeah,
it's a good vibe.
He knows that I am a massive Deadpool fan, so just rocking the Deadpool hat.
Yeah, I've got you see 3 of them here. Pin that. It's weird to do this backwards. And then I got my stuffed one right there.
Oh, there you go.
I think he's currently wearing some steampunk goggles.
Oh,
nice. Probably found him on the floor, just strapped him on him. But yeah,
I've got a lucha pool around here somewhere, like a plushy lucha pool.
Yes.
I've got my X-Force.
Oh, nice X-Force. Oh, cool. Nice. Nice. I have more Deadpool stuff. I don't think I have anything in arm's length.
Yeah.
It's the Dorbs. Remember the Dorbs that they had for the DC? They did some of the Marvel.
Yeah, I have a few of the. I bought one of the DC box sets that came with like the Justice League in them. So it was like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Flash. Who was the other one?
Now you're speaking my language.
I can't remember if it was Aquaman or Cyborg. I can't remember who the other one was.
Probably Cyborg. They push Cyborg a lot.
Yeah.
Even though his original team was the new Teen Titans. Let's just.
I mean, he is a member of the Justice League at this point. So I mean,
you know what? I didn't ask you. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Mark, how have you been, man? It's been a little while since we've last talked with you.
I've been crazy busy since last we talked. It's like the first Kickstarter went well. It's great. Like back last time I talked to you, these didn't exist, and look, here they are, physical. There's physical copies now.
Right.
Like, people actually have these in their house, which is crazy. And but yeah, it's awesome. And then since then, we started another one in October, and we got another one going on right now. So that's great. It's like I've never ran a Kickstarter. I've never made my own comic. So I decided to put 4 comic books on 2 Kickstarters in 1 year. So yeah, it's like it's been a busy
go big
year.
or go home, right?
Yeah. And I mean, again, this book, we've read them here They're definitely worth the get. I enjoyed the first two books. I have the preview for the third one, but I didn't actually get a chance to read it. I'm going to trust me because I loved your first two, man. I need to know specifically. I need to know what like how Jack's doing. Where we brought back Nick and what was the other big vampire's name?
Casper.
Casper. That's right, Nick and Casper. So learning more about those two and their hijinks. And then again, I made predictions about the blood bunny. So I want to know more about the blood bunnies, man.
I think actually it was probably good you didn't read the preview version right now because I've just updated that like 2 days ago. So it's got a cover now. It's got the preview edition has actually got some and all the corrections have been made. Basically, the preview edition now is what's set up for print, I think, pretty much. And,
nice.
And I'm working on putting book 4 together today. Mind you, I did find some little mishaps that did not align with the nothing that's going to keep us from getting it done. It was just like I have, one person doing lettering, another person doing colors, another person doing lines, and it all came together. And some things didn't line up on every page. So I just had to reach out and waiting on 2 pages to be fixed. And then after that, book 4 will be all done. But those pages will probably be fixed tomorrow. It was nothing huge.
Gotcha. Well, that's cool.
And most things I fix myself. So if I can't get a hold of them, I just do it myself. Because I am an artist. I'm just not a sequential artist. But I know enough to fix this person's leg is broken or is missing. So I'll fix it. Right. Because things happen because we're, things when you're jumping between, you're working on a bigger team and nobody's together and everybody's communicating. So I'm like the guy that tries to make sure everything gets together and not get missed. So, and do my best. It's hard to do with a day job and a toddler.
Yeah. No. And we definitely understand that around here, man. So I gotta.
Neither one of us have toddlers, but we do understand.
I have a day job that I understand. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fantastic. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Last time I was here, you were working on the NES.
Yeah.
Is that done?
The NES has been done, man. I can grab it if you want to.
Yeah, I do. I do want to see it.
Oh yeah. Did you not get to see when it moves and everything?
No,
it's really cool looking. Yeah.
It was still like a husk when I was on the show and you guys were making it.
And you know what? This is why we need to have people back because you guys get in a certain part of the Lego build and unless you're following, you don't know what it looks like at the end.
Yeah,
that's the TV part of it.
That's cool. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, damn it. My crank fell.
Oh no.
So I'm trying to do it from the other side. All right, there we go. Let's try it again. Mario jumping around the world.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Now, here's the cool part of this. Let me grab Mario. Hold on. So we see Mario at the top right here. I'm actually going to put this on the big screen just for the moment so you can kind of see how this whole thing works. So when you turn Mario on,
oh, that's crazy.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's fantastic. Well, this is the best thing I've seen all day.
Oh, well, wait until we get Phil to do his French accent. That's amazing.
Absolutely terrible.
Oh my gosh. He did it. I asked him to do it as part of his story on Tuesday. And it took us forever to get through that story because I was laughing so hard. And then I had him do it again yesterday and we laughed again. Oh. My husband and I did. We were both.
My French accent is absolutely a success.
Sorry, my Brittany, my wife, she tries to do a sexy French accent. It's terrible. It's terrible. And I was like, that's the opposite of sexy. It's not good.
It's like, it'd be sexier if you stopped doing that accent.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny because the like the running joke, and because we named the episode Phil's like really bad French accent.
So that's when you lean in and you're like, you know what's a turn on? Stopping.
Like, absolutely terrible accent, man. But I mean, like, it's
was
intentionally bad.
It was really, I mean, I laughed and laughed and laughed. It made my week. It was brilliant. Brilliant. It was brilliant.
French accent. That was kind of Quebecy. Like I sound like fucking French Canadian.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Now do Shorzy.
Is the worst of the two. So yeah.
Oh, like between Canadians and French Canadians?
Yeah, well, no, of the French accents, the Quebec French accent's worse.
The Quebec French accent is terrible.
Yeah.
It's like somebody from Minnesota trying to do a French accent.
Oh my God, what would that sound like? Just, I'm doing a French accent, hey?
Parlez-vous français? Don't you know?
And you know what it is? It's actually not even when this French is being spoken. It's the accent when the English is being spoken.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the part that I was like, not a fan. Because there's some, you know, like accents you just listen to all day. Like I just watched the Australian version of The Office because they were Australian. I was like, I can listen to this.
I can actually do a decent Australian accent.
Do it.
Go ahead.
I mean,
No pressure.
no pressure at all. Just the question that you're asking is, what am I supposed to say?
Oh, that's pretty good.
It's not bad. Not bad. Not bad. It's acceptable. It's better than the French.
Definitely.
You know, the French accent. The French accent, though, is intentionally bad. I'm not trying to do a good French accent.
And the you know, it's like, and the, you know, the British accent, you know, if you're not from Britain, everybody loves a good British accent. You know, it's very James
Depends on
Bond.
how bad of an accent you're doing, though. Are you doing like, you know, Dick Van
Here,
Dyke?
you want me to do one? Good day, love. See, that's a bad British accent.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, are you doing Dick Van Dyke where you're like, "Hello, governor"?
You know, I can still listen to it. It's something about it. No matter how silly it is, it just sounds smarter than other silly voices. There's what accent are they using in the movie Train Spotting? Because the one guy that you can't
Scottish.
Yeah, you could barely understand him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love listening. I don't know what the hell you're saying, but it seems so like you're so into it. Whatever it is you're saying, you're so into it. And I dig it, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I do enjoy a good British Isles accent. I will say. All three are.
Boy, what the fuck you going on about, huh?
You sounded a little like Aaron Taylor. No, what's his name?
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Johnson. I was going to call him Aaron Taylor Joy, but then I realized that was Anya Taylor Joy.
What are you going on about, huh?
Yeah, that's his real accent.
That's so that's actual what is that accent called? That's an actual Cockney accent.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, you know, like the Cockney accent that Dick Van Dyke is doing is the "Hello, governor." What
Yeah,
are
it's
you doing around here, huh? Like, you know, that's like a really bad. An actual one is like, "Boy, what you know going on about, huh?" Look at this.
Okay, so let's get back to talking about
Nick my call, huh?
Shall we?
But yes, so for the newer audience that's here that may not know, they may not have been here for the last interview we did, give us a quick kind of like elevator pitch of the entire concept of so-called living, and then we're going to get into kind of what you like kind of the pitch into why they should check out 3 and 4. I kind of like, I've seen the previews and things, like I didn't actually fully read, but I saw a lot of the previews and things on there, and I'm very excited to read it. And then plus, based on my reading of the first 2 books, I'm even more excited to read it. So
excellent. All right, so I'll skip the details of books 3 and 4, which are running now, and I'll focus on the base story. So so-called living, for those of you who don't know, it's a different kind of vampire story that takes place in a world where the extraordinary is ordinary. So werewolves, vampires, zombies are all commonplace. They could be sitting by you on the bus. They could be serving you drinks at the Starbucks. Like it's they're just part of our everyday. And this is an apocalypse. It's just like life, just like life we're living now. And we would be classified as normies. So that's us. And in this world, where the extraordinary is ordinary, our boy Jack, who's a normie, gets turned into a vampire, and then he has to learn how to adapt to this new way of living. And the first thing he's got to do is, like, it's the first problem he comes across at the end of issue 1, is he can't get into his apartment because he can't get invited in, because as a vampire rules, you have to be invited in. So there's nobody to invite him to his own apartment, so he can't get in. So he's a homeless vampire. And that's problem number 1. Wow. And then book 2 kind of is like carries on with, we follow Jack as Jack learns to adapt to his new situation. But during that time, gets the attention of the mob, and the mob are very interested in this new baby vampire that's in town, and not in a good way. So they start coming into play in book 2, and you'll start seeing more of them in book 3 and 4. And throughout this story, what things you should know is that there's this there's underlining bunny story that's happening in the background of everything. And
it's your bee bunny story?
Yeah, that will collide with Jack's story at some point. I'm not going to say when. And we never call them out outright, but people, you learn a bit about the bunnies every time you read an issue. So they're going to play an important part.
Yeah, the blood bunnies are like one of the most compelling stories in the entire thing. It's just like, I want to know more about these fucking bunnies. What the shit is happening right now?
Yeah, that seems to be the bunnies got a lot of attention. So a lot of people are like, "What's with the bunnies? What's with the bunnies?" And I've been pretty open on a lot of things, but I've been kind of keeping the bunnies, close to my chest. And but yeah, and the story is a dark comedy. So it makes light, and Jack and his friends, because Jack calls on his friends for help, and his friends are morons, so they're no help at all. And the mob guys, they're not funny people. Like, they're very serious. And I compare it to, imagine if the cast of Friends was being hunted down by the Sopranos. So Jack would be the cast of Friends, and him and his friends would be the cast of Friends, and then the mob guys, that'd be the Sopranos. And the vampires, the ones who turned, the big vampires that Phil mentioned earlier, Nick and Casper, they're kind of like Sons of Anarchy. Imagine that. So imagine if that's their personality. So, and that's these two guys. Whoa, here. See them right here. Like this guy. Yeah, I'm trying to do this backwards. This guy here and this guy here. That's Casper and that's Nick.
Oh, that's cool.
Those are our two big vampires. Yeah. And in book 2, start showing some characters that you meet. You meet Mr. DeLuca, this angry gentleman over here. You meet this. Well, there's Marvin. There is Tim. Is this guy right here? And she's a character just in this issue, pretty much. Now this guy will play something, and I've never actually mentioned that before, but he will be playing a part. But he's just got a little tiny part in that book. He's got his part to play.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like the covers too.
Marco's a fantastic artist. And what I like about Marco is I can give him concepts, because I always wanted to do like different kind of covers. So I drew like a really rough version of this, which was like a bunch of stick people sitting in fries. That's what I did. And then this one, I was like, I drew the same thing. I drew a very rough head, flames, and then characters coming out of it. And awesome. I basically you'll figure out the rest. so I give him some very rudimentary concepts, and then he takes it. And I was like, yeah, make it your style. And his style on the covers is actually a little different than his style inside the book. What's on the cover is actually more native to how he draws naturally. And then I asked him to change. I guess age up his art just a little bit, because this little girl, that fits right into the type of things he draws. He draws very much like these kids with big proportions getting into like just crazy adventures. Like that's his art style, right? Very detailed. So he changed it just a little bit for me for in pages. And then when he did the cover, he's like, "Can I do it more my style?" I was like, "Yeah, knock yourself out." I was like, "This is just a concept. Knock yourself out."
Well, that's awesome. But yeah, it did a really good job. It looks great.
Thank you. It was really important to me that the books look professional. Because one thing, if you look at like Kickstarters in general, the big thing about indie, like the big challenge, is when people buy books, they'll buy a book if it's got an artist they know, Todd McFarlane,
Right.
for example. If it's got a writer they know, Brian Michael Bendis, Robert Kirkman, Mark Miller, their name alone will sell books.
Right.
And if they don't have either of those, if it's a known entity like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, people will buy it just because those characters are in it. So that's the three things that people are looking for. And if you have none of those, which is most indie comics, you have a writer people don't know, an artist people don't know, characters people don't know, with a storyline nobody has any idea what it is. It's a little riskier to give your money to indie book people, creators. And I totally understand. Like I get it. So like I don't take offense when people like walk away, because it's like it's risky. You don't know me, right? But it's cool when they do. So, but because like it's cool when they get to know you and they come back to the table and they're like, loved your book, that was great. But if you don't have those three things, then I think you need to bring the quality, right? And that's what I was trying to do with So-Called Living. Like I took a lot of attention for when I like designed the logo. When I was the artist, I didn't just pick the first artist I found. I actually had the scripts written for like 12 years before I actually decided to pull the trigger and make a book. And not because the time wasn't right. And then I basically left it alone for years, and then I went back. So it wasn't something that took me 12 years. Like I wrote the 8 scripts in like, whatever time it takes to write 8 scripts. I worked pretty constantly on it. And then I just stopped for a long time because the art wasn't coming through. Because in the beginning it was, hey, I want to find an artist that'll be my partner, my buddy, and we'll work together on this. It'll be our project, right?
Yeah.
The problem with that is nobody gets paid in that situation, and it's hard for an artist who works all day as an artist to go home and then do more of that. And all the artists I know are really good, and they have full-time jobs as artists. So they go home and they're like, no, man, I just want to chill. I don't want to do more of this. It's like, enough.
Yay, let me do more work.
Yeah, so really lucked out with Marco, man, because I mean, like not only is he like a great artist in general, but I mean, coming back for 3 and 4, it's kind of a big deal because you get a lot of consistency as well.
Yep. Now my goal is to keep him around for at least 8 issues. That's my goal. At least 8 issues. And but yeah, it's great, and it's great fun. And finding like artists to do guest covers is great. Like we'll get to it, but like I have actual pencil sketches from guest covers for the new Kickstarter, and these are like he actually draws them on paper. This isn't Marco, that's a guest artist, but like he actually uses pencil to paper, which you don't see a lot of people digital. He inks those are inked, and he uses a magnifying glass, and that's Larry Twasson is his name. He uses a magnifying glass because there's so much crazy detail in his work. We'll get to that when we talk about 3 and 4.
That's very old school.
That's nuts, man. I know you the artist you got to do the cover of book 4, Mark Maia, man. That art was cool.
Yeah, I wanted to do something that was for book 4. You'll see it when
so like stick figures
no,
in fries.
It's a lot of bunnies, and I love
it's a lot of bunnies.
A lot of bunnies.
I wanted to do something that was kind of like an homage to the Blood Bunny colonies, the Blood Bunny colony, which was like the people who bought bought a keychain. I have this keychain that I did in the first Kickstarter, and if you bought this keychain, which I make myself, like me and my wife make them. Like I put the file together, give it to her. She runs it through her laser cutting machine, and it's like white acrylic. It's white and black acrylic. So we make it here in the house. It stinks up the house when we make these things. Like laser cutting acrylic. It's just like poison. It's like we're just spitting cancer into the air. So we got like 2 air filters going and the window open when that's happening. But anyways, anybody who bought those keychains, they get automatically inducted into the Blood Bunny colony, which is basically an email list. And if you come back to back any So-Called Living Kickstarters after the one where you got the keychain, then you're going to get a benefit of some sort, kind of like a membership. So right now, anybody who backed the first Kickstarter, if they come back for this one, they're going to either get a free upgrade from the standard edition to the elite edition, or from the elite edition to the Sexbot edition. Or they're going to get a free, if they don't want the upgrade, they'll get a free print and sticker set. And the idea is I want to keep offering different things as as I keep running so-called living Kickstarters, and I want to give back to the people that were there in the beginning to support, right? And if you did the little extra and you bought that keychain, you get a cool keychain and you get a benefit of some sort. Now, I don't guarantee that the benefit's going to be the same all the time, but I always want to give something, and I'd like it to get better, if anything, right?
Right.
That's awesome.
So, but there's only certain things that you can do with Kickstarter without it getting too complicated. Like I can't do like a discount. Simply because the way to do a discount right now is I'd have to take your money and then refund your money, which is not a clean way to do
that's
it.
not.
And then it's also messy because like at that point Kickstarter's already taken their cut. Yeah, so like the math just gets messy, gets broke. So I was like, I'm just gonna do the free upgrade and the prints and the stickers, and then if I figure out a smoother way to do it or some other benefit, then maybe I'll try that.
Like shoes or a car.
Like shoes or a car.
Shoes or a car?
That is a massive.
Like give out shoes in a car?
Let's Oprah this. You get a car. You get a car.
I think I would sell a lot of $8 keychains if everybody got a car.
All right. And you get a chance. You get this keychain and a chance for a car.
No, you know what you
send
need?
him a little Hot Wheels car.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is what you need to do is do one of those Blood Bunny keychains, but put wheels at the bottom, and there's your car.
A Blood Bunny car.
The Blood Bunny.
Exactly. We probably do that. We just like drill a hole through the bunny and just put a wheel on it.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. We do that.
Or like the chickens that you wind them up. You put like gum in them. And you wind them up, and they hop, 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 and then at the end they stay there, and then they lay an egg, which is the gum, and then you chew it, and then you're like, this is really odd, and I'm very uncomfortable that I'm eating something that came out of a mechanical chicken's butt.
I've never heard of this toy before, but I am so
I haven't
intrigued.
either. I'm like,
Really? You guys don't even know? Well, I am
so
really
intrigued.
old, so that's yeah. There are these things. So you could, when I was little, back in the Middle Ages,
back in the 50s.
By the way.
No.
I am immortal.
No.
We have established this already. It's canon on the show.
Oh, you can't be that old. You don't look that old.
I am. Trust me, I'm old. Let's just say that I used to watch Linda Carter Wonder Woman first run on CBS and then ABC.
I think I did too, actually. What year was that?
It was 1977 when she did it. I'm just going to tell you that. And I remember it and had posters on my wall. But no, I honestly, I'm older than you think probably, but let's get off my age. No, the chicken. So it was this, you could get these where it would be bubble gum, but they would be shaped like eggs, and you put them in the chicken, and it was just like a metal chicken, and you just wound it up, and the chicken would hop, and then as it finished, it would just like kink itself, and that's how it knew to release the egg. It was a really simple mechanical thing, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a Midwest thing. I don't know, but I remember it. Yeah, that's the toys that made us, right?
I don't think that's one of them.
It's not.
It's cool.
It's an interactive toy when Look, I'm sorry I wasn't born in the internet age, okay? But
it's okay. We're friends with Brian, so we can just have Brian put that on the show next time.
Okay, all right.
They'd be like, Brian, toys that made us. We need this fucking chicken thing that Jen talked about.
Yeah. Maybe it's a rooster. No, it's not a rooster because roosters don't lay eggs. But anyway.
Brian Volk Weiss, the guy who created that whole series, he's been on the show, so it's like,
oh, nice.
Like, yeah, Brian, just put it on an episode. It's fine.
They're gonna make me do something on it. I'm gonna be the crazy lady that like has made up this whole like toy that didn't actually exist or something.
Yeah, I love that entire series, like the movies that made us, the toys that made us, the whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The TV shows that made us, all that. Loved it.
The Disney one, which was not coming attraction. The one that The Rock produced or co-produced. That was also one of their shows.
No,
I don't think I saw the Disney one.
Yeah, it's like all the attractions at Disneyland, and it's basically like the toys that made us.
Is that like the Imaginarium or whatever?
No. Again, so I can grab the name for you guys right now.
I think this is your wind up chicken.
It's his wind up chicken. There we
This is
go.
his wind up chicken. Nobody knows what you're talking about.
Oh, that's awesome. so no, I think it's great.
Behind the Attraction is what it's called.
Oh, okay, Behind the Attraction.
Mm.
And so I think I remember. It's got like all the older rides too, and they talk about how they made them and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's the same exact show as like the toys that made us, but it's about like Disney rides.
Yeah.
That's
I
cool.
love stuff like that, like old, like when they talk about like all the older stuff and how like it, for one little thing, this is how it became so popular or whatever.
Well, the best parts are like it almost didn't get made.
Right? Yeah. We had to fight
was
tooth and nail to get this.
Yeah.
And they were throwing lawn darts.
Yeah. Yep. It's good times. Good times. Good times.
No, so I was going to ask. So you said that you had you had the scripts for 12 years. You kind of put them away. Did you ever like look at them through that time and like fuzz some things or change?
They were
some things?
no, they were buried. There was very little I changed actually. When I got the script back, what did I change? I changed the smallest little thing. So I'd say 98% of that script is exactly as I wrote it.
Oh, that's cool.
There is very few things that I wrote that I've changed. I can't remember what it was. I think, Jack's phone looks different, but that's Marco. I didn't know Marco when I originally wrote the script. So his phone is, like an iPhone type of deal. But I think if you look back, in issue 2, you see Tim's phone, and it's a rotary phone. It's got a cord on it. And I was like, you know what? I like that for Tim in his room. Let him have it. Because, so there's still some like rotary phones being used, not all cell phones. And that's because, like, I guess back when the original concept was put together, that home phones were still like a thing. Yeah. So there's still a few little things in there.
And we're old. Okay, there we go.
No, I just wondered because I really enjoy the process of how artists, writers are artists as well. So how artists, like what their process is and how it can differentiate between artists and just how they look at things.
Well, I don't get me wrong. I made a lot of changes back when I was writing it, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'd write it, give it to my friends. What do you think? Right. Get feedback, write it, give it to people. What do you think? And I'd give it to people that I could get like an honest feedback from. Right. Cause I don't want to necessarily just feel good about myself and just give it to people that I know will tell me it's great. That's awesome. That's not helping you in the long run. Right. Like you want people to tell you what they don't like, and you don't have to agree with everything. Just because one person doesn't like something doesn't mean, like, ask yourself, do you honestly like it? Because if you like it, somebody else might. But do you like it because of what it is? Like, think if somebody else wrote that, would you like it? Or do you like it because you wrote it and it's very exciting to have your own book for the first time and be like, oh, this is awesome. Right. So you gotta be honest with yourself and be like, do I actually like this? So
that makes sense.
Yeah. But if there's any changes in the script, actually, when I'm reading the book after like assembling the pages for print, sometimes I'll see something I'm like, I think this bubble needs to be changed. Like there's something in book 3 that which I think is actually I might have updated in the review copy that you have access to. Something in book 3 where it was just one bubble, where it was like Tim responded to something and he said, "What?" But as I read it, the way I see that, once I see the comic book together, that didn't seem to flow right for me. So like I like a certain lyrical flow to the dialogue when it bounces back and forth between people, right? I like to have that natural bounce back. And
each character should have a voice, even in comic book form. I mean, that's important. So
it's very important. But I feel like when friends are like really close friends, then the dialogue flows more naturally, right? So anyways, there's some things where I was like, I need to change this. So then I'll add a bunch of bubbles myself, right? Like, okay, they're gonna say this, and this, and it's my book. I can do whatever I want. So, like maybe, Marco might have drawn something like is a little detail, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna angle his hand this way or whatever, like something small. Or but there might be a little detail, like maybe he forgot to draw, like there's one issue where he forgot to draw like the pull strings. Jack's wearing a hoodie, but he forgot to draw them on every panel.
Oh,
So I
God.
went back and I drew them in every panel. So just like little things like that, right? And it happens. Like I see
Yeah.
Marvel books where it's like from one panel to the next. It's like, wait a second, weren't you wearing like boots and now you're wearing running shoes? Like what's going on? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it just happens. So
Yeah. Well, especially when you have a deadline and, you got to get books out at a certain, things happen. Sometimes Professor X's tie is blue, sometimes it's red in the same issue and in the same conversation. But hey, we just suspend our disbelief.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to run into continuity issues. It happens.
yeah, it just happens. But like, as long as like, I think the panels are there to kind of like guide the story. They're not there to be like dissected.
Right.
But because they just kind of help flow. And I find when being on one side of like as a reader and the other side as a creator, you realize how little you actually pay attention to panels when you really get a good read on. When you start getting a flow and you're like, I got to get through this stack of books. And you start reading and reading and reading. We're like, that's a good story. And then I was like, I looked at like the panels that don't have text on, I look at them a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's text on them, there's a lot, and the characters are talking, then the flow of the conversation just takes me on from one panel to the next, right? It's enough to just catch your attention. Like it doesn't all have to be perfect.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be. And in a lot of cases, for a lot of comic books, it's not. There's a lot of things that if you took that panel and you made it a piece of art on its own, you could probably dissect it and be like, his hands kind of wonky, his feet are too small. It's just like weird things.
it's Rob Liefeld. He can't draw feet at all.
It's Rob Liefeld, and the feet just don't look right. Period.
There are no feet in that picture because he can't draw them.
He hid them behind a lot of smoke and rocks.
Yeah,
Not
a lot.
It's not a slight behind you, Rob. Yes, it is. Okay, I'm sorry.
And then you've got on the opposite end, you got George Perez, who would like make sure every toenail looked, looked like atomically accurate.
Yep.
I don't think that's right. Anatomically accurate.
I was having more fun listening to you try to say that.
Right.
That was a good time.
But I mean, you get the spectrum, we'll say, of feet. I don't know how we got on feet, but there we go.
Oh God, it's just become a feet fetish episode. Or is that what
feet fetish? Feet fetish?
Feet fetish? What?
Feet fetus? No, that's weird.
Okay, now we've moved into a totally different area, and we're not going to talk about it. So no, I really enjoy that. I enjoy to hear processes and how people,
I had a lot to, as far as processes go. Like I had a lot to learn because, like I said, this year was the first year I put the book out, and last year is when I really got into it, and I was like, how do I find an artist? How do I print a book? How do I write a script for an artist to be able to follow? How do I and once I have a printer, how do I set up the file for the printer? How do they want PDFs? I don't usually save PDFs. How do I save them properly? How do I set up the proper bleed? Is this going to be enough? I have to do a QR code so I can get a discount on taxes in Canada. So how do I do not a QR code, a barcode? How do I do the barcode? I need to get an ISSN number. What the hell is that? And then like, how do you generate a barcode? I can't just make a random barcode. There's got to be random barcode thing. Like, and then it's like, okay, now I figured all that out. I got to do a Kickstarter page. How do I do a Kickstarter page? Like, how does that function? I got to put in my credit card. Where's the money going to go? And then how do I
gotta say please and thank you 1,000 times because it isn't Canadian. So I mean,
how does that pledge manager work? Like, there's so many questions, right? The only thing I felt comfortable with was designing the page.
Yeah.
Because I like our page. I think our page looks good. I felt confident designing the page, but like what information goes on the page, how much is too much? Doing the research on like what makes a successful comic Kickstarter. It's like I asked myself so many questions, and I was talking to as many people as I could. But I felt like a lot of that I had to do on my own. Like I had my wife supporting me as far as like if I needed something done that was like paperwork or something. She had to figure out like when we got the copyright for the logo, she did that. Or so she helps me out like that, but I had a lot to learn on my own, just figure out how to do this. She helped figure out like where's the like shipping costs everywhere. She helped with that. So whenever she can help out with something, she did, which was great. But yeah, the process was a lot.
What was like the most surprising thing that you didn't realize you needed to learn?
There's an amazing amount of things that I didn't know that I I just didn't know. Like there was like how to get the word out that your comic book even exists is tricky. Where to find a good artist that's not going to rob you or be afraid that you're going to rob them,
right?
Or that is the right style. Because at first I was like, where am I going to find an artist that's the right style?
Yeah.
And then I went to Twitter and everybody sent me stuff that was very anime. And I was like, that's not what so-called living is. That's not the right style for so-called living.
Yeah.
I was looking for somebody that was more in the range of like Humberto Ramos, which is Marco. He's more in that range of like exaggerated characters and body proportions and very animated, and they're very expressive. So Marco was perfect for that. And that's what I was looking for. But when I asked on Twitter, I got a lot of like teenage romance manga style out of pointy chins, big eyes, and I was like, and some of it looks great. I say some of it because obviously there was artists that they're not very strong artists, but they try anyways, and I get it because you have to try, right? You never know, might as well take your shot. But I got a lot of really good artists that also sent work, and I was like, this is great for manga, but that's not what I'm doing. It doesn't fit my story. So I thought new, and which is, there's a huge market in manga. It's unfortunate that it doesn't suit my story, but it doesn't. So yeah, that was that. I guess that was the trick: is finding an artist hard. And
how often did you get cussed out by a 12-year-old on Twitter because you said it wasn't the right work, right?
Yeah. But I told him my response was something was like, thanks for the submission, but I'm not really looking for like an anime manga style art for this. It doesn't suit my book. I'm looking for a very specific style. I don't know what it is, but when I find it, like I did know what it was. Like I had that idea in my hand, but I was open to other styles because somebody might have came in that was like the next Jim Lee. I'm not going to say no to that. I'm like, you know what? I'll make it work.
Yeah.
Right. So
can you draw feet, Jim? Okay, you're in.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was.
Oh, I'm looking for the next Jim Lee, not Rob Liefeld. Okay. Bad chest proportions, pouches everywhere. I say that jokingly because I love Rob Liefeld and all of his work. It's an easy joke to make. It's all low hanging fruit.
It really is.
Yeah, well, like I grew up on Rob, right? Like everybody loved Rob, and at some point, everybody kind of turned on him. But you can't, whether you like his work or not, you can't deny it. Guy did a lot.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He accomplished a lot.
I absolutely love his work. It's just really easy to talk shit about Rob Liefeld. But I mean, like, I have books.
Hawk and Dove. I love Hawk and Dove. I still to this day love Hawk and Dove.
Well, I wasn't a fan of. He was the one that rebooted Lobo in New 52, wasn't he?
Did he?
No. I think it was him, wasn't it?
No, I have that.
Who was it?
I don't think that was Rob.
I hope because I thought he. I don't know if maybe I thought I saw a cover of him doing it, but like the Lobo New 52 was terrible.
Yeah.
And
I miss old Lobo.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Old Lobo was awesome. That's kind of actually when I did Nick, who's the vampire.
Mm-hmm.
I in the first book, he was he was inspired by Lobo, not based on Lobo, but inspired by Lobo.
So have you always been obsessed with vampires? I mean, is that just a thing for you?
Nope, I was not. Oh, I found out what my confusion was. He did do some Liefeld. I'm finding it now. He did do some Lobo, New 52 Lobo art.
Okay.
I'm assuming that it looks New 52-ish. So he did some issues, at least some cover work. But no, I'm not into I'm into everything. So like I'm not into vampire. I say I'm not into vampires because like I know people that are and they're like hardcore into vampires. But
Yeah.
like I like vampires. I like werewolves. I like zombies. I'm just into what I'm into, right? So like I like watching vampire.
Rob Liefeld.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
So that's as far as things I don't like that he did. I do not like what happened to Lobo.
Yeah.
So because I love an old Lobo. But sorry, what was the question? I got distracted by the Lobo.
I just said, so have you always been obsessed
Oh,
with
yeah, so-
vampires?
like I'm more of a zombie guy. I like zombies.
Mm.
As far as the monsters go, I like zombies. Top my list. But yeah, I'll watch werewolf movies. I watch vampire movies. I like all that stuff. Ghost movies. Just
So on a
watch in
scale of
general.
1 to 10, how much do you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the television show?
The television show. You know what? When I first watched season 1, I was because I had the box set for a long time, and I bought it because everybody was going like ape shit over this show, right? And, and the show I think was, I don't even know if it was still on the air when I had the box set, and I had a girl in my office who she was crazy about it. She drew a coloring book for it and she gave it to one of the actors. I was so convinced. I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And then I watched one entire season and I was like, this show is like it's like the first season is they're like throwaway episodes pretty much.
Right. Yeah. It's like a
Monster
of the week. Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know, I'm not feeling it. And people were like, just hang in there. And then I started getting into it. Like I started liking Spike. I never really, I never really got into Angel, his character, but I liked Spike. I liked a lot of the other characters. So yeah, I started getting into Buffy. So out of 10, I got to an enjoyment of probably 8 for Buffy. So I got pretty high up there. But mind you,
I'll accept it.
There's a lot of people that said once Dawn shows up, the show goes to shit. I actually liked it more after.
I liked what they did. I like in the last season how they kind of like really gave her that lost sense of, like, I don't know who I am now that I'm not a key. I don't know who I am. And then she was like, well, I best grow up because I'm on hell now. So
fantastic is the comic book series for season 8? Is that
what
that comic book series was Josh Whedon?
Joss Whedon and was it Bernard Chang?
But like the art is amazing and the story is awesome, so it's great. It's fantastic because it takes off right where the series ends, where there's like just slayers everywhere.
Yeah, like all the activated slayers, and they got like a whole like militia and it was amazing. The Faith miniseries, there was like a 4-issue one of her. I think it was her and Spike.
I believe I have that, but I have not read it.
It's really good as well. So like if you liked Faith as a character, you'll like it. So
all I remember about Faith is 5x5.
5x5. Yeah, I liked that one. I liked when she swapped with Buffy. They swap bodies.
Oh yeah.
That 2-part. Yeah, that one. Look, I'm a huge Buffy fan, so like this is, we have to stop talking about it here in a second. Right. Phil will kill me. But yeah, no. So when they swap bodies, that was great because they had to play each other, like their version of who, like, so Sarah Michelle Gellar had to play Faith, Eliza Dushku as Faith, and like it was really funny. So it was a good episode.
Those are always like the best episodes because you get people who, they get to interpret another actor.
Yeah, it was very Freaky Friday kind of like, but of course horror because it's Buffy. But
well, the thing with like So-Called Living is it is a vampire story, but it's not typical in the fact that nobody's hunting the vampires.
Yeah.
Like it's well, technically the mob's hunting Jack, but it's not a Buffy vamp. Like people aren't just hunting them because they're like, oh my god, vampires are gonna kill us all, hunt all the vampires. Yeah. Like it's not that kind of story at all. And it's not as much as like True Blood, because True Blood, like people know vampires exist, but people are afraid of them. These vampires still hide around. They have their own like underground things because they want to stay away from the people that are going to kill them. Where that's not the situation. Like
they just all coexist, right?
Yeah, everybody just coexists. And I had somebody tell me, he's like, I'm a huge vampire fan, but I thought vampire stories were pretty much done. And he said, until I read your book, and I was like, wow, you brought me back. You brought me back to vampires, because he was like, this is a different kind of vampire story.
Yeah.
And that's where I started getting the tagline. It's a different kind of vampire story, because he was really into it. And before that, somebody else told me the same thing. They're like, I love your vampires. And I was like, oh,
I think we
great.
said that. I think we also said that's what we liked about it. It's a different vampire story.
Oh man, thanks. See, there you go. See, it's a common thing. So I'm just trying to listen to that and kind of lean into that, which is like where the story was going, anyways. But I want to try to let people know, because that's what people like. But that's not even. It's like I wrote it. I didn't even realize it. You know what I mean? I was just writing my story, and then I look back at it. It was like, yeah, I guess it is. They are different kind of vampires, and I do reference them being different. There's like there's one page in the first book where when Jack is turned and he starts crying, and Nick is like, oh no, you don't. He's like, don't turn Forest Fairy on me. And Jack is like, got his hands on him. He's like, what? Like Forest Fairy. And Nick describes forest fairies. And remember, keep in mind, this is a world where forest fairies do exist. Right, because everything exists in this world.
Yeah.
So he refers to forest fairies as the vampires that like glitter in the moonlight, like Twilight vampires, or like your Bram Stoker's like, my love, come to me, my, like all those, like all the romance vampires.
Oh, the emo. They're the
Yeah,
emo
so
bands.
the emo vampires, your romantic vampires, all your those guys, like that's who he's like, that's not us, so that's not you. And that's his because he's more like the bikers from Sons of Anarchy. So obviously they wouldn't like the guys are like all pretty and coiffed and like romancing everybody, like the Sons of Anarchy wouldn't like that. So Nick doesn't like it, like that's his personality. So, and he figures because he made Jack, he's like, oh no, you didn't. You're not going to turn into. So that's what. So he's like, you're not going to turn Twilight vampire on me,
Right?
And it's funny because he wouldn't like them. That wouldn't be his thing.
Yeah. That's awesome. I like that it's a like coexisting thing. I think it's a interesting concept on it, where it's not like, oh, us against them, or it's just like, hey, you're a vampire and you're a banker. I mean, it's like
yeah, exactly. You just have to work night shifts, but yeah,
exactly.
Because I try to keep the same rules happening and going on. And and we touched a bit on, I don't know if you want to talk about books 3 and 4.
Yes,
let's we didn't talk
absolutely.
much about them. I only say that because I look down and I keep seeing these are in front of me. I gotta put these in a frame. But like books, I told you, like books 1 and 2 establish Jack's origin and set up a situation. Books 3 and 4 lay the groundwork for a much bigger story. So you start seeing more of the mob guys, and you start getting more of a peek into their world, and their world is a lot more violent than Jack's. It's still a dark comedy, but when it comes to the mobsters, their pages aren't funny, right? So like unless Jack's in there, they're not cracking jokes. They're very serious people. So and the return of Nick and Casper, because in books 1 and 2, Nick and Casper play a big part in book 1, but they're absent from book 2, and so in 3 and 4 they show up again. They make their return, and they make their return in a big way, as you can tell in the cover of book 4. If anybody's looking at the Kickstarter, the standard cover is just a bunch of guys, like a big brawl, looks like a big bar brawl. And Nick's like grabbing somebody by the head. And he's like, I'm going to eat him. And then there's Casper's behind him. He's choking somebody out. And the guys are getting punched, and like Jack's biting somebody. It's just it's like bodies. And they're just all scrapping out. So that kind of gives you a hint of like what to expect in issue 4, because it's the cover for issue 4, which is what inspired the obligatory sex pot edition of issue 4, which is it's the bar brawl, but it's all like the girls in the bar fighting. So it was all guys in the bar fighting.
Great.
So
there you go.
And and this is Larry Twasson, and he did an awesome job. Like that's all like original pencil work and pencil and ink. And then he did this version too, which was the variant cover for issue 3 of a zombie girl coming out of a pool full of zombies.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this was my wife's favorite until I did the bunnies. She likes the bunnies. Because when I did the bunny cover, that's the pink cover. That's part of the Elite Edition, which is usually guest artists. But I ended up doing that one. I wanted to do something that was kind of stylized because I like doing things different. So I wanted something. I was like, I'm gonna limit my color count. So first I was gonna do it just 2 colors, and I was like, then I bumped it up to 3 just because I wanted to get that blue in the title. So because it's like bright pink background, there's black outlines on the bunnies, and then there's the blue logo. That's pretty much it. And then the white is the paper, so you don't count that as a color. But that is like that's what I wanted to do. So it's like just a bunch of bunnies on a very pink cover, white bunnies on a pink cover with a blue title. And I wanted something that really pops, and that was kind of like paying homage to the people who bought the keychain in the first Kickstarter, the Blood Bunny colonists. That's why I did that cover. But yeah, it was fun to do. So that's the story. So that's the story and a little backstory on the covers too.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, Mark, we are running on time.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, you're good, man. So before we let you go here, because we got to get the next guest on, give us another push for the Kickstarter. Give us another kind of just where everybody can get the books, where everybody can follow you. Give us all the plugs, man. All right.
Here comes. Ready? So So-Called Living books 3 and 4 are on Kickstarter right now, and they'll be there for the next 5 days. It ends on Halloween, like Halloween morning. So like 9 a.m. on Halloween, it's over. So so if you want to get it now. And I say get it now because I'm not very good at making these books available after the Kickstarter. And that's because I just have a busy life and I've done a poor job of making them available to people. So best way to get them on Kickstarter. And if you missed the first Kickstarter, there's actually catch-up packages where you can get books 1, 2, 3, and 4 in whichever cover you want. And it's at a discounted price. So if you miss the first one, you get $5 off, which is great. Keep in mind, all prices are listed in Canadian. So when you see the artwork and it says like $80 for the all-in, it's actually $59 for the Americans. So keep that in mind. You're paying a lot less than what's listed. And so yeah, and our shipping costs are really low. So get in there and check it out. You won't be disappointed. Book 1 is free to read on Global Comics. If you want to check it out, go to Global Comics, search So-Called Living. It's completely free. You don't have to have a subscription or anything. You just read the book free.
That's awesome.
And I 100% recommend that. Again, guys, I cannot stress how good these books are. You guys have to check it out if you haven't checked them out yet. If you guys didn't check it out the first time that we had Mark on the show, head there now. Especially if you can get the first book for free, go and read it just as an incentive to go and buy the other ones.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy with it, and the feedback's been great. And last thing, as far as reaching us, just look up So-Called Living pretty much anywhere. And if you can't find me on So-Called Living, you can always find me on Board Game Coffee, which is my YouTube channel. And again, you can go to Threads, you can go to Instagram, Board Game Coffee, or you can go to those channels and check out So-Called Living, and you'll find me. So that's
awesome.
That's it.
Well, that is absolutely awesome. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, please thank Mark Maia coming on the show here. Mark Maia and his incredibly sexy voice.
Thank you.
Smooth like fucking velvet, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
like red velvet cake.
Yeah, I have a setting that's just velvet. It's just the Batman setting broke. I overused it. Right off.
Batman's setting broke.
He turned the big bottom on, and it's just making me feel some kind of way. Just throwing that out there.
That's great.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And again, Mark, as always, man, whenever you want to come back on, you just let us know. We'll love to have you back on again. Another project, or you're adding more to this, man. We always love having you on, man.
Felt great talking to you again. And Jen, nice to meet you.
Pleasure. It was nice to meet you too, Mark.
All right,
bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was great. I'm very excited. I need to make sure I get my back in on this time, just because
It is only 5 more days, and it's a great series.
It looks really good. I think I'm gonna have to look at it myself.
Yeah, me and Graveyard were able to read it last time prior to that interview, and it's awesome. It's just it's a different take on horror, on like horror tropes, and it's great.
Yeah, it sounds really neat. I like the whole concept of, everybody's just living their lives.
Yeah,
They're just like, just like, hey, just living my life.
Exactly.
I turn into a werewolf every now and then. Do you want extra foam on your latte? I mean, like,
That's exactly it. Did you want cream on that? Okay.
yeah. Oh, sorry for the hair. I am shedding. It's my shedding season.
Hairball. Sorry.
Mhm.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump right into this next one here. Our next guest is a TV showrunner, director, writer, producer on both scripted and unscripted shows, producing shows everyone here has watched at some point or another. As a writer, he has written multiple comic books, and here to talk about his latest project with Scott Snyder.
Ooh.
Big deal to me because Scott Snyder is one of my favorite modern writers. Please welcome to the show, Jerry Carita.
Hello, Jerry.
Woo!
Hello.
That was quite an introduction. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that I think I really like Mark's his pitch at the end there of just please get the book now because I'm definitely not sending it to anybody later. I love that. I love that. That's great.
It's like going into a Target and you find the perfect shirt and you're like, if I don't get this right now, it's
You're
not
never
going to
gonna
be
see it
here
again.
again. Yeah,
You're never going to see it anywhere ever again.
Never.
I'm actually living in I have regrets now because I was just recently in Alabama and I like the Walmart. I guess Walmarts around the country will carry the local high school football team T-shirts and stuff. I
Yeah.
walked into a Walmart in Northwest Alabama and they had all these T-shirts that were like for the local team called the Trash Pandas. And I'm really upset with myself that I didn't get one.
The Trash Pandas are a minor league baseball team. I love them, man, so
That's
much.
what it is. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I thought it wasn't the high school. That's right. It was the Atlanta Braves affiliated, I think.
Right. They
Yeah.
are a minor league baseball team. I absolutely love them just for the name.
Yeah. I was very upset with myself for not picking one up.
That's awesome.
Who doesn't want a shirt that says Trash Pandas on it? That's amazing.
Oh my gosh. I want one for my dogs.
Oh, because your dogs are Trash Pandas?
They are. So,
I ran a show for History Channel a few years ago called Night Fight, and it was grown men putting on like 100 pounds of armor and hitting each other with swords, full contact.
God, that sounds like something I would do on a regular basis.
Oh, you would not be able to walk by now if you did. Let me tell you, because we had a couple of broken hips during the course of the production.
Yeah.
But there was a guy on the show who called himself Trash Panda, and I remember in the interview we were like, "Why? It's a raccoon. Why Trash Panda? It's like not a ferocious thing." And he was like, "You ever got into a fight with a trash panda?" I was
He's
like,
not
"All right."
wrong.
No, it's like America's Tasmanian devil, basically.
Right. The Trash Pandas are vicious.
Yep.
they are. Yes, I am. Very vicious.
Or like, or they're super domesticated. I just did, so I can't talk too much about it, but I'm going to show you a picture if it'll come through. I just was in Alabama filming something, and we needed a raccoon, and this woman, she worked with the local animal rescue or animal control, and so for some reason when they come across raccoons that are injured, they bring them to her and she rehabs them, but then she never releases them. So this is a raccoon.
Aww.
That is one raccoon. That is not a raccoon behind like a pillow. That is a 52-pound raccoon.
Oh my God. That is a big raccoon.
That is a big raccoon.
Yeah.
Anyway.
My mom, when she was a kid, she had a pet raccoon.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I'm from Oklahoma. So yeah, so like it's not that unusual in Oklahoma. So,
I hear
Trash pandas are like all the independence of a cat, but all of the neediness of a dog.
Mhm.
What's nice about it, the people I've seen who have them as pets, they will literally sit next to you on the couch, like watching TV. You order a pizza, they're eating pizza with you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like and holding it with their hands, and just it's like having a buddy, you know.
Mhm.
I love that. Like these are animals that have opposable thumbs, and they're like
Yeah.
cognizant of cleaning. Like they clean their food multiple times. Oh my god, we're getting into this whole thing about pandas and about trash pandas.
It's not what we're here for.
Whole interview like written for you here. So before we jump into kind of learning about you, like everything that you do and everything like that, we have a segment on the show called Growing Up Geeky. What did you geek out on when you were a kid?
So this is actually part of my my spiel when I talk about comics, is that it wasn't comics. I never had that moment where someone handed me a comic until I was in my 30s. So when I was a kid, it was TV. I was a diehard, all the cartoons from when I was a kid, Ninja Turtles and things like that. But when I was like a young, like 10, 11, 12, you know, where you first get imprinted with the thing you're going to be obsessed with all through your, am I hiding in the car from a trash panda? No, but I did see a gigantic rat like 15 minutes ago walk right in front.
He is in New York, so I mean,
I'm in New York, guys. I'm in New York. It was twice the size of Pizza Rat, I swear to you. So my geeky thing was my mom. I spent a lot of time with my mom watching Star Trek Next Generation. That was my first Star Trek. Captain
nice.
Picard is my captain. And
Mhm.
that was the thing. That was my geek. That and the X-Files right around the same time were both my geek thing, my entree into geekdom.
Nice. No, I've brought it up on the show multiple times. Mine in particular was 89 Batman got me into 66 Batman. And I was
wow.
a big Batman fan growing up.
Yeah, I used to love. I mean, I watched all the '66 Batman whenever it was on. There were so few episodes, and it was only on for like 2 years or whatever it was,
Right.
2.5 years. We wish we had a geeky mom on the show. That's funny.
He's talking about me.
I sensed that was a dig. I sensed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely our geeky mom.
If I don't show stuff on that his comments, he gets cranky. So there you go, James.
You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. You're feeding the troll. Don't feed the trolls. Number one internet rule. Don't feed the trolls.
And
that's true.
This troll also happens to be a co-host, so it's
yeah.
Kind of trapped then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Huh? Go ahead.
No, that was it.
Okay.
Is this a rapid? Do we start with a rapid fire round? Is there another?
Yeah, there's one more that I got for you here.
Let's do it.
So the next question I got for you here is, if a movie was made about your life, who would play you and why?
So, like I would say, before I had a third child and started falling apart physically, right? Probably Brandon Routh would play me.
Oh, nice.
When I was like 15 years ago, a friend of mine found a video of a young Brandon Routh in, I think it was an audition, and it was like he was doing an impression of me. It was like this, all the same mannerisms, and like I had my hairline was down a little bit more, you know, and I, like, again, third kid. As soon as we were outnumbered, I was screwed. So I think I think Brandon Routh. He's also he's funny. He's the Hollywood better looking version of me, I think.
And that's hard to find.
Totally.
Is the Hollywood better version better looking?
Yeah. Yourself? I mean, you know, I think Sandra Bullock for me, but I don't know.
No, I'm for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. So as I'm thinking that, I wouldn't mind Aubrey Plaza for me, but then that gets weird because that feels like hall pass, and we're more brother sister and not into that stuff. So that would be weird.
Phil, who would play you?
Ryan Reynolds, easily.
Ryan.
But he'd have to put a fat suit on.
He's done it. He's right. He did Just Friends.
Just Friends. We up all the time. I make jokes. I'm actually not that big, but I mean, like, Ryan Reynolds would be a perfect me when I was in the Army. There you go.
I think when I was like 15 years ago, I was probably in the best shape of my life, and I am far from that now.
Yeah,
I'm in the largest shape of my life now, not the best.
You're in a shape of
I'm
your
in
life.
shape. Oh, it's a shape. It's a very recognizable.
It's a shape.
You could call it globular shape.
Globular.
round is a shape. It is a shape.
It's a shape. Round. It's spherical.
Spherical. Yes.
Spherical.
Spherical.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Oh my
The way you
goodness.
can describe where I'm sitting at right now. Spherical.
Phil, what are we looking at here? Is that Legos or is that like a train set? What am I looking
No,
at?
it is Lego. I am building the Nightmare Before Christmas set.
Solid.
Yeah,
Great movie.
he's very ADHD, and so when he interviews people, he has to have something to do with his hands. And so we all chip in and get him Lego stuff.
That's great.
Is that what we're doing? I didn't know we were doing this. I was getting
Oh,
ready
you didn't know
sell
about
my-
that? Oh, oops.
I've been getting ready to sell all the rest of my kits so I can buy more.
Phil, Jen reached out to me, and is it James Navarro?
Yeah.
James and Jen reached out to me, and they just said, it's part of Phil's therapy. We all get together.
We're not
and
really
talk
even
to him.
recording right now.
Yeah, this is all nonsense. We're just here doing therapy for Phil. We talk about stuff, so he has someone to talk to while he's building his Legos.
When the fuck did the pantomime happen? I'm just
No, we're not talking about no places now. Not now.
Did you just snort? That's the first time I've ever heard you snort. That is awesome. Let's get into the rest of this here.
Right.
Get more about you and everything like that. So you work in Hollywood. We know this. Just kind of like us talking about the beginning, a couple of things that we talked about. Did you start off, or not Hollywood, but in like film and then like shows and everything like that? Did you start off as a PA like everybody else, or did you graduate to the kind of crew member at the beginning?
I did. So I actually started out in a more Hollywood situation than where I am now. When I was in high school, I had a guidance counselor who knew someone that was a key grip on movie sets. I told that guidance counselor that I wanted to work in movies. He set me up with the key grip. The key grip set me up with a producer. He's a producer. He's an old guy now. His name is Mike Hausman. I haven't seen him in many years. Mike produced The Firm, that Tom Cruise movie back in the day. He did all of Milos Forman's films. He did. I think he was an AD on what was The Gangs of New York, that Scorsese film.
Yeah.
And so I went to work for him when I was 17 or 18 years old. I think I started when I was 17 as an intern there. And he pretty quickly, as an intern, I started reading scripts and doing coverage. I was 17 or 18 years old. Towards the end of the internship, he had to go out to LA because they were getting ready to film The Man on the Moon, the Andy Kaufman movie with Jim Carrey.
Right.
And he wasn't going to take me with him, so he just made some phone calls. And so I I did a Woody Allen movie called Celebrity. I did a Tim Robbins movie, Cradle Will Rock. I did 2 weeks on an episode of Oz. They were still making that show Oz back then.
Yeah, it's a good show.
It was a great show. Kathy Bates was the director of the episode I worked on.
Oh, wow.
So by the time I was like 19, I had a resume of production assistant work. And then when I got out of college, I just went right into it and started bouncing back and forth between random PA gigs on, what was the beginning of reality TV. Like, I was a driver on an early season of The Apprentice, like,
oh wow,
way back, so I was kind of starting out when that was all starting. And I would bounce back and forth between being a location manager and scripted shows and movies. I worked as a location scout on that movie Wanted.
Nice.
Oh, the James McAvoy, Angelina Jolie.
Yep, that was the one.
And bullets.
There's a bunch of
That's
scenes.
awesome.
If you ever watch that movie again, the bending bullet. I wish I had anything to do with that. I did say something. I got yelled at by the cinematographer on that movie, which was pretty fantastic for me. I just learned to not open my mouth when I certain people. Basically, that was kind of what it was. But if you watch that movie, there's a bunch of scenes that are a flashback to Angelina Jolie's childhood, where like her home ends up on fire, and that's a house that's in an area of Brooklyn called Ditmas Park. I found that house. I was the location scout that found it.
Oh,
And
nice.
That was my location. That
There
was
you
my contribution
go.
to the film. But I did stuff
You
like
know,
that.
that was
and
my
then-
favorite part of the film.
Well, you know, thank
I
you.
noticed it
I
first off.
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
It was perfect.
So there was that. Thank you.
The
So
amount,
there
the
was
amount
that.
of ass kissing happening right now, astounding.
And then at some point, I just needed to make a decision between film, scripted stuff and unscripted stuff, and I think there was like a $200 or $300 a week difference if I went for scripted, and I would basically be a producer faster and get to be creative faster. So I went down that rabbit hole, and I've been stuck in it ever since.
Right, because I mean,
There-
yeah, I mean, you worked on both scripted, unscripted shows. So that's how you got into producing shows like that. Like, I mean, how do you get into producing The Food That Built America and Geeking Out with Kevin Smith?
So I mean, each one's different. Like Geeking Out and Comic Book Men were just because I was working at a production company on a landscape renovation show. It was my first job show running. It was very low stress. It was for the DIY network. Like no one was watching the DIY network, so no one. There was very little pressure. And then I found out that the company I was working for was doing Comic Book Men, and I walked into an executive's office, and I basically was like, "I'm working on this show,"
I love
and that's all there is to it. And he was like, "Well, we're all staffed up." I'm like, "I don't care. I will do it for nothing on top of the show I'm already doing for you. So you get a free body, And then partway through that first season, everybody was fired except for me and like two other people, and then I really was working on it. So, and then because I had done that when Geeking Out came about, it was the same. Some of the same executives, they knew me. I was at another company that was working with Kevin. Kevin knew me, endorsed me for the job, and so I did it. So it's like anything else, I guess. It's making connections. It's where your connections go in this world, and it's how long you can ride their coattails and how far.
There you go.
Now, you going into into this office and saying, "I'm going to work on this show."
Mm-hmm.
When you heard about it, was it just because were you just a fan of Kevin Smith and you just want to be on the show, or?
So I had a buddy in college. I wasn't even a giant fan yet. I had a buddy in college who looked like Kevin and would be, people thought he was cosplaying as Kevin when he was just walking around as himself. And he actually, I wish I had the photo handy. He bumped into Kevin in an airport, and Kevin was like, "You're me." And they took a bunch of selfies. This is like before cell phones were enough of a thing. I don't think selfie was a word yet, but they took a selfie. So yeah, I just like I wanted to do something. I had at that point started doing all these unscripted shows that were about like landscape renovations and home renovations, and I had worked on, I think at that point I had already worked on American Pickers and some Wife Swap. I had done all these things that were like fun. I worked with amazing people. I had a great experience. I learned how TV works, for better or worse, but I wasn't really interested necessarily in the subject matter. Like none of these were shows that I would want to watch. And I thought, okay, Kevin's doing a show in his comic book shop in Jersey. It's basically local to where I live. And it's going to be a bunch of guys like hanging around and talking about geeky stuff. Like this is something I feel like I can sink my teeth into. And I just was like, not going to take no for an answer. And that was it.
That's awesome.
And that's how you conquered America. I'm just going to do this thing.
Because it's funny because we're actually friends. We're actually friends with Ming Chen. So it's just like as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh, dude, okay, yeah, this makes sense." We're friends with Ming. He gives us advice all the time. Of course, I'm a massive Kevin Smith fan. So I mean, like that's kind of when I saw that in your resume, I was like, "That's awesome."
Yeah, Kevin's fantastic, and Ming is a buddy. Like I talk to Ming on a regular basis.
Yeah.
My first comic book Kickstarter, we did a live launch for it that Ming hosted.
That's awesome.
So he's great. He's always been super supportive, and anytime we're at a con together, it's like I have a buddy to hang out with, so it's cool.
Yeah, no, we met Ming in Idaho,
Yeah.
the con promoter was like, "Hey, we need somebody to entertain Ming Chen. He likes to go to a lot of bars. Are you up for it?" And I was like, "Sure." So I messaged him. I had met him previously in Stockton, California, and just we made a bunch of jokes, and then we saw him in the bathroom, and then we started making dick jokes, and it was great. Uh, which is very Ming Chen, but like,
Yeah, that's a good thing.
right. And then and then again we see him in Idaho. I tell him, hey, let's go hit some bars, and he just sends me a list of like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're doing this, and so we get to Idaho. I go introduce myself in person. He goes, I remember you. Gives me his number immediately, and then we just hung out every night for the rest of the weekend. And like,
Yes.
Yeah.
he's like the coolest dude in existence. I love that guy.
He's very cool. He's a lot of fun. And he's up for anything.
Yeah.
Like if you were like, no, we don't do bars here. We do mountain climbing. He'd be up a mountain with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And live streaming it and talking about it with everybody. Absolutely.
Right.
Ming's
We're actually
great.
going to see Ming in we're going to see Ming in about 2 weeks. Doing a show in San Jose, and we're
Nice.
in that show. So
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. So wait, so you directed American Pickers and Russian Dolls. You directed Russian Dolls.
I did.
Huh. Do you prefer? Well, I mean, because directing is so different than producing. So, like, which one do you prefer? Like, which one do you like better?
So in reality TV, it's weird because basically to avoid union rules, they call everybody a producer. So if you see anyone listed as a field producer, that's a director in reality TV.
Okay.
And then you'll get like sometimes if you're more senior, they'll call you a supervising producer, and there's no union saying they can't do that. And they'd much rather give you that than a raise. So they'll call you a senior or a supervising producer, and then you're still the director, the person running posts or the writers, right, who are building the story out of the footage. They call them story producers. It's all just like nonsense, such nonsense. But yeah, like when you're directing and producing are definitely different, even in reality TV for the most part. The thing is, when you're the producer, you're kind of responsible for the whole thing on a macro level. So, like what I've been doing most recently for the last like 10 years or so is mostly show running. So I'm responsible for the entire thing, including managing network executives, making sure the production company is happy, managing talent, whether making sure they're happy and doing what we need them to do to make the show. Making sure they at least think they're getting everything they want. You know what I mean? And then you're also hiring the whole team. You're hiring your own field producer, your own director, your own camera team, your own editors, But when you're directing, it really is kind of like, I like to direct reality TV the way that you'd imagine directing like improv.
Okay.
So like basically like if you pick, like I did a bunch of tattoo shows, I've done 3 different shows. I did New York Ink, all ink show. They all called ink. New York Ink, Epic Ink, which was all geeky tattoos, and Hero Ink, which was all these like harrowing tales of first responders and military people talking about like losing their friend and like things like that. And all 3 shows, when you're directing, you're really kind of, if you're lucky, the people on camera have a real dynamic, and you just basically are an invisible member of the conversation, and you're getting them to talk about the things that you need them to talk about, and you hope that they have a real dynamic and a real kind of relationship or a chemistry or something that they can play off of. That's the best case is like these people really work here and they really are really good at whatever it is you're saying they're good at. The worst case scenario is, the network asks you to cast in someone from somewhere else and pretend they work there. And then, well, this show needs this show needs a cute girl. Let's get a cute girl and we'll pretend she answers the phone and works the counter. And then you got to figure out how to so all these people who don't have a real function in this business or in this world, you're kind of stuck with them. And then you have to drag them all along. And then it's all just, you're really writing. You're really making up a story and it gets really weird. So if you're really lucky, the tattoo shows are all nonsense, if I can make that. They're sometimes they're really friends, right? The artists,
Mhm.
but there's not like a shop with an all-star collection of the best artists in the world that are all working in one place. It doesn't exist.
Right.
Each of those people has their own shop somewhere else, and they fly in and they sit around for 2 months making the show, and the show pretends that they all live there together. And then if you're lucky, they all have a real, like on Comic Book Men, it was great because they really knew each other. They really worked in that comic shop. Ming and Mike came into those guys' lives 10 years before we started filming, so there was a real dynamic there.
Right.
Walt and
Mhm.
Brian and Kevin go all the way back to when they were teenagers.
The high school.
Yeah, all we had to do was throw out a topic and wait a few minutes for Brian to make it dirty, and then we would everyone laughs, and then you throw out a new topic. You know what I mean? Like that's all you really had to do. It was really like a great dynamic. You had to prepare for the days Kevin was going to be there, but hang on, I'm gonna try and get this light to come back on. You had to prepare for the days that Kevin was going to be there, but otherwise, you know, they were doing the thing that they were good at, and they were interacting with each other, which they've been good at for 30 years already. So you
Right.
get very lucky. And directing, that's pretty, I wouldn't say easy, but it's like, it's fun and it's not painful.
Right.
As,
Right.
That's
opposed to
awesome.
like, pretend you're opening up the shop. You don't even know how the key works. You know, I've had that. I've had that.
Oh no. Oh goodness. Yeah.
So bad. All right, so let's do this. So getting into your writing before we get into like comic book and everything like that. But how does one become the head writer for a hit show like The Food That Built America?
So in that case,
Which
it's
I watched every episode, by the way.
Did you? Oh wow.
Yes, I love
What's your
food, and I love
Which are your
the
favorites?
something that built America. I love, you know what? I really like the history of the hot dog.
That's a good
I
one.
loved that one. And I'm not a big hot dog person, but I loved that story.
It's a great story.
You know, what's
Yeah.
funny is The Food That Built America is one of those shows where if I can't figure something out, that's like one of my fallback shows.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have seen the Kellogg Post rivalry so many times.
Yeah.
You know, I love that one too. I love it's cool. It's a history in an interesting way where like you learn stuff and you're like, oh wow, I just learned something, but it was a fun story. So anyway.
Yeah, and then same
So-
thing like the candy stuff, where like when you get
Oh,
into like Mars versus Hershey and all that stuff. Like
Mhm.
again, those were really good stories.
Yeah.
So I mean, if knowing that you were the one that kind of like headed all that up, obviously writers' rooms, but I mean, like it kind of like a lot of those ideas came out of your head. I commend you for the amount of
Oh,
energy
thank you.
that you put into that as well.
Yeah,
Thank you. I
absolutely.
will, to give credit where it's due, a really good buddy of mine, Yoshi, ran that show in the first season and the first and second season. So the Kellogg Mars, those are early episodes that he did.
Okay.
And part of the way that I got into the show is, you know, I have known Yoshi for a lot of years, and when he was leaving the show to go do something else, he recommended me to replace him. And so I had the kind of weird eclectic experience they were looking for. I had worked on TV sets of where there's like 80 people and 100 people. So the size of that show versus something like American Pickers, it's you and 4 team members total and the cast, and that's the whole crew out there.
Yeah.
On The Food That Built America, you're writing a screenplay for all those recreation scenes, and then there's a full film team. You know, like it's 50 to 70 people who are building sets based on what you wrote. You know, picking wardrobe and casting based on what you wrote. So you know, it's a monster of a show. I did season 3, so like the
Okay.
Krispy Kreme and Dunkin' Donuts was mine.
That was another really good one.
Yeah.
Thank you. One of my favorites is the cookie episode. It's Wally Amos and Mrs. Fields.
Mrs. Fields, yeah.
Oh yes, Famous Amos and Mrs. Fields. Yeah, okay, I
Yeah.
remember that one.
You know, it's funny.
I
I
read-
just rewatched those episodes too, so it's like, yeah, no, I'm very familiar.
That's I really like that one. Wally Amos just passed away a couple of
Right.
months ago, I think. I was very sad about that. We tried to get him on the show. He couldn't travel. He would have been coming in from Hawaii. But yeah, it's a weird one, and it's very different from the unscripted stuff I was doing. because it's basically a scripted show, you know. And again, they can't call it that because of union rules. Like, I was the executive producer, and you know, so, but it's a big monster of a show. It was a lot of fun to do. Yeah, that's it.
Again, and I thank you for that, because again, a lot of entertainment. Like I said, my go-to show is The Food That Built America. My wife's go-to show is American Pickers. So it's funny that you worked on both of those.
There you go. Also, Frank, I feel like I've been doing this for too long. Every one of these shows has someone I know who just died. Like Frank Fritz just passed away too.
Oh yeah.
We had there was a week that week when Frank died. There was like 11 people who had died in the industry. So we ended up doing a full in memoriam segment on the show.
Yeah.
I brought up Frank Fritz because I was just like, you know, that's a big deal for my wife. My wife is a big fan of that show, and him dying would, like, you know, it was something massive for her. So
I'll go look that up. He was a very nice guy. He was always a little bit unhealthy. You know, like even when I was doing the show, like 14 years ago, however long ago it was like the second or third season. And we always had to, like, you know, he had to be off the clock by a certain time. Like he always had some kind of health issues. That's not related to what he died from, but you know, he kind of had a rough physical go the last few years. So I felt for him. Anyway.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Bringing down the room. Sorry.
No, hey, look, a conversation goes where a conversation goes.
right.
You know, it's a vibe. I can just be goofy until we get it back where it needs to be, I guess.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and move on from like kind of the film, because we kind of started with like writing and everything like that. But where did your love for writing come from? Like was it just something that you kind of got into as a kid? Was it high school? Was it not till later? Like where does your journey start when it comes to writing?
So when I was younger, I wanted to be a stand-up comic, and so I would write jokes.
Okay, that makes sense.
I was like in high school into college, and then I think I studied writing in college. I did screenwriting classes. I did the TV writing classes. I got out of school, and I just wasn't writing. And I would tell people I'm going to be a writer and director. And after like 2 years, I stopped. I just dropped the word writer because I wasn't writing anything, and it seemed silly to keep saying it. It seemed like a lie, so I stopped. And then when I started doing unscripted TV, you know, like I said before, you spend a lot of time in post with an editor, and you're storytelling. You're sitting there looking at raw footage and going, how do we make this make sense? How do we make it funny? How do we make it sad? How do we tug at the heartstrings? How do we make a good story out of it? And so I kind of fell in love with building a story out of the footage. And then I kind of found my way back to writing from there. You know, I started doing that because when you're doing that, the dream was always we used to always complain, I wish I could write it down and have actors who would deliver a line the way that I had written it. And then I did that on The Food That Built America. And I felt like those episodes I'm very proud of where it went well. And I wanted to keep doing that. And so I started doing, you know, most of my TV stuff is unscripted. It's hard to pivot into fully scripted television from being a reality TV producer. So I needed the creative outlet, and that's how I started writing comics.
That's awesome.
That's kind of the whole journey there, right there.
That's awesome. And you said you didn't start reading comics until you were in your 30s?
On the set of Comic Book Men.
Oh, wow. So what?
So there were two things at one time. One was I was on the set of Comic Book Men, and we had to decorate the whole shop with comic books that had to be cleared. We couldn't use anything from Marvel. They didn't have a deal with Marvel. I don't think we could use anything from DC yet either, even Kevin's books in season 1. So we had to use all these indie books. And we were doing the show for AMC, and The Walking Dead was a big hit. So The Walking Dead was around. That's the first comic I read. That's the first, my first monthly book that I picked up and started reading was The Walking Dead. So, you know, like a lot of people, I think, start with Batman or Capes and Tights. I started with like a black and white, weird black and white zombie story, you know?
I mean,
but it's Kirkman.
I was just
totally
amazing writer.
Yeah, like I'm not saying I'm not belittling it in any way. It's a
not saying book. You are.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying,
Okay,
like, I
it's a good
think a
place to
lot.
start.
Yeah, I think people start younger often with superheroes, and then you
Mhm.
develop sort of a nostalgia for it, and you find your way to whatever indie thing you like. I've always kind of gravitated more towards indie. The other thing that was going on is my cousin is a comic book writer, and my cousin is James Tynan, and
Hmm.
he was just starting to write at DC Comics right around the same time when they were doing the New 52. So I started reading his book, and then when he started writing bigger Bat books, I read all the Bat books for a while, and that was a lot of books. That was a lot of books.
You have a lot of tie with Batman at this point, man. Because
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're gonna get into Scott Snyder in a little bit, but I mean, like, wow.
Yeah.
yeah. And then I went back and did my homework. I read all the Chris Claremont's run on the X-Men. I read,
Mhm.
I started reading really old Batman, like the OG Batman smiling while throwing people off of roofs and stuff like that.
Oh,
When Batman first came out, like setting fire to a whole building full of criminals or whatever,
yeah.
and like walking away smiling with Robin,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I, I read a whole bunch of that stuff. I read all the Frank Miller, everything Frank Miller. I read Jeff Johns' whole world building run on Green Lantern,
Yeah.
where he brought Hal Jordan back and then
Yeah.
expanded the whole universe
The whole
into what we all
Blackest
know.
Night.
Oh yeah, and the core, the whole core,
Mm.
the whole spectrum of colors in the various lanterns, and um, yeah. So I did all my home. Went back and did all my homework and caught up, you know, and then I
Mhm.
promptly stopped reading Capes and Tights and started gravitating. There it is. There it is.
Yep.
Rebirth, right? Yep.
Jeff Johns
I
rebirth.
promptly start.
Yeah.
That's it. And I promptly started gravitating towards indie books once my cousin stopped doing Batman. Um, and I've been there ever since. And so a lot of the books I read now, I read everything my cousin writes. I read everything Scott writes. I'm reading a lot of Donny Cates right now, and I read a lot of Kickstarter books, a lot of books that are like funded online.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, jumping into that, like Scott Snyder is one of my favorite Batman writers, and that's kind of like where I said before, like jumping into Batman, like Scott Snyder's Batman runs were some of the best. I mean, Court of Owls, easily one of the best modern stories.
It was I think it was the best addition to the Batman Rogues Gallery. Like it was like the next step up. Like
Yeah.
it was like he created a whole judicial council for
Yeah.
his Rogues Gallery, and it
So
was
between
a really intricate story that paid off.
between him and Greg Capullo, like this, the work they did together was absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah,
He's
And
very
Capullo was-
he's very Go ahead.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say he's very cerebral, and so the way he talks about Gotham City, it's like Gotham City will bring forth for you the villain that is your complete opposite. The way that like the Joker is the opposite of Batman. When Dick Grayson was Batman for a little while, there needed to be a different Joker. There needed to be a different monster character. And so they came up with somebody else. And so when he took over Batman, he wanted to start from a place of Batman's overconfident, Batman's feeling really good about himself, Batman's on top of the world, crime is down, love of Batman is up, and then he needed something that said, well, you know what, everything you think you know about Gotham is wrong, and the whole Court of Owls thing. And so it's funny because when you talk about it, how kind of like cerebral how cerebral it is, you start to think like, come on, man, it's Batman. Like Batman's gonna punch the bad guy, and it's like like the Joker's gonna show up, say something funny, obnoxious. Batman, like but
Yeah.
but the thing that makes the story really stick and memorable and makes you feel something when you're reading it is when there's some underlying thing going on like that, where their story is not just what happens in the story. The story is Batman realizing he doesn't know shit about anything, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and having to like rethink everything he knows, and that's like a scary thing for someone like Batman or Bruce, He's so good though. Have you read Absolute? Have you read the new one?
I haven't read Absolute.
I haven't either.
I guess we need to do some reading, Mister.
I've heard good things about it, and that's definitely like something I need to get on and read.
It's pretty good. It's definitely like another cerebral thing he did. So I'm in his writing workshop that he does through his Substack. That's my connection to Scott.
Okay.
And people in the group can submit writing to him. He'll give you pointers. He'll like give you feedback. You can have, office hours. He calls it office hours. And you do a video meeting with him and just talk through what you're writing. I wrote a story called Cicada Samurai. He gave me some feedback on it. And so as I'm doing the book that is on Kickstarter, is about to be on Kickstarter, has already been on twice. It's an anthology series. It's all students in the class. I'm one of the editors. I work with a partner. Her name is Veronica. And so he had a meet. He does this thing where at Comic-Con in San Diego and in New York, he'll do a meet, like a breakfast or a dinner, where you just go and hang out, and he's there, and he'll invite some other writers. So last year in New York, Chip Zdarsky was there. I think Josh Williamson came to one. Years ago, my cousin went to one. It was very cool. And then you just get to ask questions as like an up and coming, I want to be a writer, I want to be a creator person. You get to pick, Charles Soule's brain for a little while about like his process and stuff. It's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
At that dinner, Scott started talking about a new take on Batman. This is a year ago, before anyone knew that he was talking to DC about coming back. And I remember thinking to myself, I think he's going back to DC Comics. And it was basically this take on Batman. And it's another cerebral, like, how do you rethink the character for a new age? Like in the 1930s, the idea of a billionaire putting on a suit and punching out low-level street criminals made perfect sense. Now it feels like a rich guy punching poor people.
Yeah.
So what is the thing that makes Batman that isn't necessarily that he is, fighting street level crime as a billionaire? And so he just rethought all of it. And so Batman is no longer like that. It's still Bruce Wayne. It's just a different Bruce Wayne. It's a different backstory. But all the things that you think of that really make Batman who he is are still there. It's just a different character. It's just not. He's not a billionaire. His parents weren't killed at the movie theater, but there's a similar backstory. There's still something there that drives him to be the best, to be the strongest, to solve crimes and stop criminals.
Yes, because that is Batman.
It's really good. Yeah, exactly. It's really good.
He's justice.
Highly recommend it. He's justice. I highly recommend it.
Well, that is awesome. So you mentioned Cicada Samurai, and that's a book that you did prior to the one you're doing with Scott, right?
Yes.
And the Grizzly Crew, is that another one that like came out of the workshop with Scott, or is that something different? Or
so Cicada Samurai I was working on when I started at the workshop, so I sent the script to Scott. I don't think I sent Grizzly Crew through him. Grizzly Crew is something I'm actually writing with my 8-year-old.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it was just
awesome.
sort of it was like a fun thing we were doing. He walked into my office one day and he was looking at some art I had on the screen, and it was this was the day Midjourney came out, like when you could tell the AI to make you something. And I think like everybody else, I logged into it to see if this was the end of the world or not. Like, was this Skynet or was this just some like terrible thing? And so I had it up on the screen and I was like feeding it Cicada Samurai ideas. So there were all these like weird amorphous, like anthropomorphic bugs on my screen holding swords and weapons and stuff. And he walked in and he's like, Dad, what's this? He was, I think, 6. Dad, what's that? And I'm an idiot, so I answer questions. So I was like, it's an artificial intelligence art generator.
You just straight up what it is, and it's like, Dad, I'm 6. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about right now.
Well, you know what? The thing is, my other 2 kids would have just gone, "Oh, I'm gonna go play video games," and they would have left, right?
Yeah.
But of my 3 kids, this one was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "It's a computer. You give it info, it creates imagery for you." And then he was like, "Oh, cool. Can it make a Spider-Man monkey?" And I was like, "I don't know. Let's try a Spider-Man monkey." And he started feeding me stuff to make it create stuff. And he said, "What about a pirate bear?" And I made a pirate bear. And he's scared of bears. So now this pirate bear, this weird, Midjourney was really bad at faces when it first came out. So this like morphed, shadowy, silhouetted, giant, scary bear thing with a pirate hat was on the screen. And he was just staring at it. And I just went back to work figuring he's sorting out his fear. I'm going to go back to what I was doing.
He's realizing the trauma. He's, actualizing everything.
And then he just goes, I went back to work, right? 15 seconds later, he goes, his name is Captain Grizzly. And I was like, what? And he's like, Captain, Dad, the bear's name is Captain Grizzly. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, it's cute. Captain Grizzly. That's funny because he's a bear. I get it. That's nice. And I went back to typing, and he's like, he's the captain of a ship, and all the pirates on the ship are bears.
Oh my god, he's just like coming up with like ideas at this point.
In 15 seconds, he came up with the story, the whole story.
Wow.
I was so angry. I was so proud. Angry.
You just outdid me in every way right now.
15 seconds. He goes, his name's Captain Grizzly. He's the captain of a pirate ship full of bears. All the bears, they work for, they go around looking for treasure, but it's not gold. He goes, it's not gold, Dad. It looks like gold. But when you squeeze it, it's wax and it's filled with honey. Because bears like honey.
Bro came up with that. That's such a good story.
15 seconds. I'm telling you, the first thing he said. And then I go, wait, stop talking. Let me start writing this down. And then he literally goes, it's called the Grizzly Crew. And I was like, it is. It's called the Grizzly Crew. And that's it. It's the Grizzly Crew.
And that's how you hired him to do all your pitches?
100%. Absolutely.
There you go.
So over the next week, we started just pitching ideas back and forth. And he came up with all this great stuff. He's like, what if one of them is I'll tell you two more. He goes, what if one of them's a polar bear? I'm like, cool, polar bear. And he goes, and the polar bear is always angry. And I was like, why is the polar bear angry? He goes, because pirates are always where it's hot and polar bears like it to be cold. So I was like, I love it. It's like an angry, grumpy, gigantic polar bear who's just uncomfortably warm all the time. I love it. Yeah. Okay. And then he goes, what about a koala bear? And again, I'm an idiot, so I engage, and I'm like, well, a koala bear is not really a bear. And he goes, instantly, he goes, well, maybe he doesn't know that.
That's so good.
I was like, what? And he goes, he's a koala bear. Maybe he thinks he's a real bear, and he wants to be part of the Grizzly Crew, and he doesn't know he's not a bear. I was like, you son of... Where did you... What? It's so good. Like, it's so good, you know? And at that point, I was just taking notes. He gave notes to the artist. Like, my buddy Nick Justice drew versions of all these characters, and he sent back a koala bear. And, like, in the week it took to get the art back, my son was watching YouTube videos about koala bears. And so when the koala bear came back, he goes, no, that doesn't work. And I was like, what's wrong? He goes, Dad, koala bears have two thumbs. I was like, what? And I looked it up. Koala bears have two thumbs. I had no idea. So he goes, he needs to have two thumbs. And his feet should look more like hands because their feet grip things. That's what makes him good at climbing.
That's so amazing.
He goes, that's what's going to make him. He goes, because people are going to think he's weird because he's not really a bear, but then they're going to like him because he can climb up into the thing. What's the thing, Dad, on the pirate ship?
The crow's nest.
Yeah. Again, I'm the problem here. I'm like every time I've ever been in a room with like a bunch of network executives or TV executives, TV executives or whatever, I've always been like, there's always a moment where you pitch something, you think it's a great idea, and someone in the room just isn't going to get it. They're not getting it, then I was that person now. And my 8-year-old was like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, he's not really a bear. It's like, well, maybe that's a good thing for his character, Dad. Right.
Oh my God. Okay, dude. He is already in line to have like his own comic books and his own stuff. Cause like, what other comic creator can say, I created a comic book with my dad when I was 6. Well, 8 now, but I mean like 6.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is so amazing. Kids are amazing.
They're amazing. He's really incredible. Are. He's smart. He's funny. He's better at this than I am already. And he's the reason that I'm falling apart physically.
There you go.
I knew
good and the bad.
I knew it was a kid story from the research that I was doing. I did not know that. I didn't know that your son basically wrote the entire story.
Yeah, I mean, he came up with the idea and then the story, and then we started talking through it, and I wrote it out, and We actually haven't delivered. That's a Kickstarter that I haven't delivered yet because we're still in the art phase. We're not finished yet.
Yeah.
Oh wow. And the book that you're doing with Scott is
So that's an anthology series. It started out a couple of years ago. A group of the people in his class started to do. They did an anthology where basically, like he does this class where once a month he picks a topic about writing comics and just talks about it. Sometimes he usually has a guest on, and a lot of people, like thousands of people, listen to it, but most of them, I think, are just listening to him talk about comics. They like hearing him talk about the process and what he does and what he likes and all that. And then a smaller group is part of this group that are actually trying to be creators. And so they take what he's saying and they apply it to their craft. But it's not a course in the sense of like there's not a thesis at the end where you can deliver a final project. So a group in the class kind of created that. They said, okay, well, what if they got 18 stories together from creators in the class and they published a book and they put it on Kickstarter and they raised a decent amount of money. And it was called The Tales from the Cloakroom. Scott's group is called Our Best Jacket. So it's kind of a tie-in to the Best Jacket title.
oh awesome.
And it was a Herculean task to get 18 first-time creators on the same page to do a thing. And so that group of people didn't want to do it again. And, and then a different group of people did a second volume. And then after that, I came along. And those people were also like, was a lot of fun, great experience. Don't want to do it again right now. A lot of them are still in school. Like a lot of them were literally like, kids in college.
Yeah.
A few of them anyway. So, and then I came along with my partner, Veronica Howell, and we thought, why don't we turn it into something that is kind of, instead of being this big project that's like in the forefront of your mind for a long time, it'll be a smaller thing that's always kind of going. And so we turned it into a smaller issue-based ongoing anthology series. And so the thing we're about to launch is issue 3. What we originally said was we would do like 40-ish pages of story for each issue. We've never been less than 55 so far. This one's no exception. So every issue is a perfect bound, roughly 60 to 70 page book with like 6 or 7 or 8 short stories, all from people in Scott's class. And the tie-in, we shortened the title, so it's just called The Cloakroom. Scott Snyder presents The Cloakroom. And Scott, we credit him in the book as like a story consultant. A lot of the stories in the book are people in the class who've submitted it to Scott and gotten a round of feedback. And what it is for me is Veronica and I get to kind of exercise a different part of our brain. We're both writers. But when you're editing creatively, you're not writing. You never, ever say, well, here's how I would write that.
Right.
So you kind of are taking someone else's idea and helping them realize their own vision. And I actually find that a lot, like, really rewarding. I think if I pursue a full career in comics, I think that I would rather go editor than writer. But I'd probably just do both.
Yeah.
Everyone does everything now, right?
Yeah.
I want to say most of the editors were writers, I think, at
Yeah.
the big 2, and then I think they went back and forth. So I think it's a pretty, lateral move. So,
So that's the book, and then this is the new one is a holiday issue. We decided to do a holiday issue. So there are, I think, 3 or 4 Santa stories, like Christmas stories. There are 2 Passover stories. There's 1 Halloween story. There's 1 birthday story.
Oh, yes, because birthday, the whole month is a holiday. So
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. So, well, cool. That's awesome. I love that. I love the whole anthology thing. It's nice to be able to read a story and it's complete, and then you go to the next one. So it's kind of neat.
I'm absolutely all of this, man. Just like
So, okay, so let's get back to learning about you. Because we're getting ready to wrap up.
Yeah.
So, a couple of these aren't you don't have to think about them real heavy, but what would be the worst movie sequel to be made, ever made?
yeah. So it's the concept of it is more a movie that hasn't been made, right?
Mm.
So if you heard tomorrow they're coming out with a sequel to this movie, what would just be like, why?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think they've probably made that movie already, right?
Yeah, pretty
The
much.
worst sequel ever. What would be the worst sequel ever made? I think a sequel to. I mean, honestly, every single thing that pops into mind is something that has a sequel. Where I'm like, why did they do this? Like, I saw the original Saw movie in theaters with the producers that made the movie at like a screening, and I remember thinking, this is so good. It's such a good horror movie, and it ends in a way that like it can't come back, and it did 5 more times.
Yeah.
8, 9 more times. They're up to 10 now, I think. That's a hard question off the cuff, guys.
That's actually kind of the point of the question.
No, I know.
I could. Do you wanna like buzz out of that question? I'll give you an alternate question.
Give me an alternate, and I think if I come up, I'll try to come up with I'll try to come back to it.
Okay, alternate question. What's your favorite Shakespearean play?
Ooh.
I didn't say it was an easier question.
No, it's good though. It's good. I like it. I'm for it. I like Lear.
Oh, King Lear. Okay, yeah.
I like Lear because
I don't get that one often.
I love it's like not funny, it's not light, it's so dark and like dreary the whole way through. I think I like it mostly because I love watching really talented actors dig into like a crazy character. And Lear is just a crazy like, do you guys watch The Bear? You know that show, The Bear?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so do you know the flashback episode that was Christmas where you're just watching Jamie Lee Curtis build up to like a nervous breakdown the whole episode?
Yes.
I don't think I've gotten to that one yet, but I can't wait.
It's amazing. It's just a ton of character actors playing distant relatives of the family. Mike Bernthal is alive, like the brother who killed himself before the series. He's around. They're so dysfunctional, and you're just the whole time watching Jamie Lee Curtis like chain smoke and get closer and closer and closer and closer to just losing her mind that day. And I just love watching that, just like a crazy thing happening slowly over the course of an hour. And that's what Lear is. You're just watching this guy get in his own way and just make himself crazy. And every actor plays that character at some point. It's like that. Anthony Hopkins doing it is probably my favorite one that I've seen on film, where it's just it's the one with Frances McDormand, I think, was in it. And,
right.
Yeah, so
That's
good.
The infamous car crash episode.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Anyway, I think that one. I think it's a great role, and I love watching it's always a really talented actor, and just watching them slowly like lose their mind. It's just, I don't know, fun for me at least.
No, I love it. There's no wrong answer. There really isn't. Like, everybody has their own preference, so it's not,
Right.
I prefer Midsummer Night's Dream, but hey,
That's a great
I'm all
one.
about the fantasy. So that's all right.
Also, my favorite. Aaron Watson in the chat saying just that episode alone was nominated for an Emmy.
Yeah, everyone in it. There's a handful of things that have happened on TV that I think should be perennially. Like, Alec Baldwin should get an Emmy every single year for this one thing he did one time on 30 Rock until he's dead. When he takes Tracy Morgan to therapy and he does all those impressions of those other famous black actors, Alec Baldwin every year forever should get an Emmy for that performance. Jamie Lee Curtis every year forever for that episode of The Bear should get an Emmy every single year.
Absolutely.
And the barbecue sauce in Ted Lasso.
That's a good. Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to make a Ted reference.
No worries. So it is, and they are coming back for another season. So they just announced that they're doing another season of it. So
So we're gonna get into the last wrap up questions here. These are the hardest questions you're ever gonna be asked in the entirety of your life. Are you ready for this?
I guess so. I mean, I couldn't come up with a sequel a minute ago, so I don't know if I'm prepared.
Oh yeah,
So
no,
let's
this is
do it.
gonna be even harder, man.
Yeah,
Let's
this
do
is important.
It is. This is the most important question we ask anybody. What is your favorite kind of taco?
I like. This, I don't even know if it counts as a taco. No, I'm not going to count it. I like a pulled. I like the barbacoa.
Barbacoa. Okay.
Yeah.
We get that a
So,
lot. Barbacoa. A lot of people
meat.
do. Since I'm from Oklahoma, it's ground beef. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I love Mexican food.
There is a right answer to this. I am a Hispanic man, and al pastor is in the Latino community. When you go to a restaurant, al pastor is usually going to be our litmus test for whether the restaurant is good or not. So if the restaurant makes good al pastor, they make good everything.
Okay.
And I
That's
have to
good.
say that the white person equivalent is chicken fried steak. If the restaurant serves chicken fried steak, you have to get it, because if it's not good, it's not a good restaurant.
That's pretty good.
So.
I agree.
Everything is a taco if you believe in yourself. Aaron Watson with the zingers
That's
tonight.
pretty good.
Yeah. So what's next for you, man? Do you have any cons coming up? Is there any shows that you're doing? Anything that's not under NDA that you can talk about?
So I just finished a Discovery Channel TV show about a truck building company. I can't really talk more about it, but that'll be on Discovery Channel sometime in the next 4 months, I think.
Okay.
Awesome.
So you can look out for that. I have this new issue of the Cloakroom. I have a pre-launch page up for the first full issue of Cicada Samurai. I will launch that probably in January or February. But the big one right now is the Kickstarter for the Scott Snyder project. It's a holiday issue. The idea is that we're going to publish it. We're going to print it before the Kickstarter is over, so we can actually put the book in your hands before the holiday season is over, which will be the fastest we've ever delivered anything so far. So fingers crossed.
Yay.
And then what else have I got going on? I'm not doing any shows as me. I do occasionally do shows with a company called Blue Juice Comics, which are some really good friends of mine. Those are the producers and crew from Comic Book Man. They started a publishing company right there on set. And so they do a book called Anne Bonny. I think we're going to launch a Kickstarter on that pretty soon. And so I do MegaCon with them most years. I don't think we're going this year. So I don't really have. I want to have more of my own stuff in hand before I show up at a convention and be like, buy my books. You know?
Right.
So I'm still kind of early in the game. So I think I'm probably another 6 months away from having enough to feel like I could go and sell and be a present.
Yeah, man. And the artwork on all the stuff that you've worked on, especially your books, like Cicada Samurai. I just put the Kickstarter in the chat.
Thank you.
Same. Yeah, no worries. Cicada Samurai is on there. Same thing with Grizzly Crew. Grizzly Crew, just the artwork that we didn't really get into it on this, but the artists you chose on all this stuff, like the art, the way you chose your artwork is great, because it's all absolutely beautiful, man. This you look at Cicada Samurai, it is a horrifying idea, but it looks so cool.
It's a lot of fun to write.
Yeah. So this just all means we need you to come back on.
Yeah, you got to come back on again.
More about the work you have going on here.
I'm for it, and I'll have an answer to the sequel question.
There you go.
During the sequel interview.
Boom. See, we've got it all down pat right here. All right.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom. Where can everybody follow you if they want to find out more about you and your work and everything you're doing?
So I'm on all the social media places as Thorny Comics. I'm at Thorny Comics on Instagram. That's a big one that I use when when I'm sharing stuff. This is probably the one I use most frequently. I myself have a Substack, jerrycarita.substack.com. And anyone following my Substack gets a shipping discount on all the Kickstarters. But I share TV stuff I'm working on, comic stuff I'm working on, other campaigns to follow that friends of mine are doing. Just I thoughts about TV shows I'm watching and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a pan media geek place to follow me. But anytime I have anything important going on, I send out a newsletter about it. So that's the best place.
Absolutely awesome, man. Again, we definitely want to talk more because, God, I want to talk more about Cicada Samurai. I want to talk more about kind of like everything that you got going on. I want to talk more about your career in general, man. It's just, like I said, well, when I started doing all the research, I was just like, oh my God, this dude's all over the place, and I'm all for it.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely, man. So that is it from us. We thank you for coming on the show. Again, give us any additional plugs, man. Any pluggables you want to give us for anything that you got going on before we subject you to the dance party here in a minute.
So no, but the group that got me into the publishing side of this, Blue Juice Comics. If you go to bluejuicecomics.com, they're selling right now something called War of the Undead. It's a book that Walt Flanagan and Brian Johnson from Comic Book Men created years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Walt did all the art. Walt recently redid all the art. So if you buy the book from them, it's a hardcover. It comes in a slipcase. It's got all the original art and then all the new art all together in one place. So it's the complete War of the Undead. It was available exclusively through their Patreon, the Tell 'em Steve Dave Patreon that Walt and Brian do. That's a great. I helped work on that as well. It's a very cool just thing to have, and it's collectible. And if you ever bump into Walt and Brian, they're happy to sign things. So.
Yeah, same with Kev. I mean, like, I've got Lightning Gyre and all the stuff that him and Walt did together, and I met Kevin 2 years ago at LA Comic-Con, and I made him cry, which is not a hard thing to do, but I made him cry. So
yeah, he's a big crier.
He flirted with my son when he was a baby at San Diego Comic-Con. I had to tell him to stop.
That's funny.
So
Kev is like one of the greatest people in existence. So I love that man to death. Even though it is hard as hell to get a hold of him after after he agrees to come on your podcast, and then you have no way to get a hold of him. So, but anyways, that is it from us tonight. Again, Jerry, I thank you for coming on, plugging your stuff. We got to get you back on again. So
it was very nice to meet you.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we're going to subject you here to the dance party. The dance party is this is going to be really hard to do while you're in a car too. The dance party is basically once the theme music for the episode starts, essentially you grab something around you and make it dance on screen. It may end up just being you, unless you've got something in your car with you, but it's like, that's going to be the fun part of this right here, is just kind of seeing what Jerry comes up with. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it from us this week. We will be back on Tuesday for the download, and bring you all the news, the rumors, and everything in the nerd world. Until then, as always, ladies and gentlemen, actually, you know what I forgot to do, Jen? I need your pluggables. I
was hoping you would forget. Darn it.
Yep.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jen. I have my own YouTube channel called Frey Girl. I do a show with my son Shadu called Classified, where we take your favorite fandoms and we classify them into Dungeons and Dragons classes. We also have a sister show called Journals of the Classes. So if you don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons classes, you can watch them all, and then you'll know about the classes and the subclasses, and then you can watch Classified. But yeah, that's what I do. I'm also on this channel. I do the download and the occasional the build. I also do a show on Kyber Cave called The New Order, where it's basically an RPG game that we do, and that should be out fairly soon. I think maybe the beginning of next year. So yeah, and that's me. You can follow me on all my socials. It's at Frey Girl or at Frey Comics.
All right. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, you know who I am. I'm your boy, Young Phil. Of course, connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's not X. It's still Twitter. I'm never calling it X. Twitch, TikTok, Threads, YouTube, Discord, MySpace, Vine, GeoCities, Friendster, Second Life, AIM, Farmers Only, Christian Mingle, OnlyFans. It's only pictures of Aaron Watson's feet and Mandel's the beard, and John has his glasses sitting on a table just judging you for everything that you've ever said or done, because that is what the glasses do. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, as we did at the beginning of the show, if you want to send us an email, if you would like us to break up with your boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, significant other, pet, schoolyard bully, annoying neighbor, just tell us how much you enjoy us, hate us, or wish the internet would consume us completely and spit us out at the feet that Rob Liefeld never drew. And you can send us an email at dist. Wait for it. There's a whole line there. It's not happening. That's right. Okay. Insnerding at AOL.com, and we will read your email live on the show, as we did tonight with Sandra and Jeff. So that is it from us, ladies and gentlemen. It is now time for the dance party. Let's get this going. All right. Oh God, is that a Swedish fish?
Awesome.
This may be the greatest thing ever on a dance.
Distance nerding.
See everybody next week.